Welcome to the Jordan Talks Jiu-Jitsu podcast, where Mike, Joey, and myself discuss all things grappling. All right, welcome to the Jordan Talks Jiu-Jitsu podcast. The co-host Uki, Mike, and Joey Boretski. We've got a great podcast episode for you today. This is podcast 11, so super exciting. All right, make sure you guys check out xmartial.com. Use my code Jordan10. They sponsor the podcast and me. They make amazing rash guards. Like, I got my T-Rex Arms rash guard on there, my Limitless rash guards, and they're super awesome. Like, I wouldn't have, agreed to a sponsorship if they weren't awesome gear. Like, I wear them because I like to. It's been a really awesome journey getting to this far, and we kind of forgot there was our 10th episode last time, so we didn't really say anything or celebrate, but we'll say it today and celebrate today. So it's awesome to do this with you guys, and let's get started. So what's new with you guys? Joey, you competed on the weekend. Let us know how that went.
Yeah, so I did it was a 4-person black belt middleweight Grand Prix. So there were 4 of us in the bracket. You had to fight all 3 of the people, and basically at the end, whoever had the most wins and points won. Not my day. Let's put it that way. I learned a couple lessons. One, I'm not a middleweight at all.
How much do you weigh right now?
152.
And middleweight is how much?
181.
Yeah.
Yeah.
30 pounds matters.
Yeah, it really mattered. And there was so I lost all 3 of the matches. One of the matches, straight up, the guy was better than me. Sometimes you're just oh, well, today, whatever it was, he was just better than me. I think he armbarred me or something. I made a silly mistake, but the other 2 were really winnable. And it's just one of those frustrating things where you're I made a couple bad decisions, and the size makes it really hard to recover once you've made a bad decision, but it is what it is. And it was a good learning experience. I realized a couple of things I need to work on. So always take something away, I guess. Yeah,
jiu-jitsu competitors, they win and they lose. That's just part of it, and it just wasn't your day that day. What are some things you think you can improve upon to, beat a guy like Danis, who you consider, better than you?
I just gotta, I have this bad tendency of almost accepting when things are going wrong. So and I've noticed until really recently, I used to do it with you in the gym, which is funny because you've said lately, I felt like I've gotten so much better. And it's because I've tried not to do this with you, where you would start a sweep, and for some reason in my head, it'd just be well, he's just going to sweep me anyways. He's good at sweeps. I'm going to go over. So I might as well just go over and then try and play from there. And lately I've been trying to have more of a mindset where it's I'm going to try and fight the sweep and see if he actually earns it. And for some reason in the tournament that day, I kept making decisions where he would go for something, and instead of fighting him and stopping him, I just kind of accept it and try to go to the next thing. And it really went downhill fast.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of my 20 tips. My 20 tips video is don't accept sweeps. I think that's something that's really important. And I'm glad you kind of realized some of your mistakes. And Mike, what's been new with you this last little while?
I think I'm starting to pop out of the blue belt blues that I had there. Good. And I feel like I'm advancing a little bit now.
Good. It's funny. I feel like I've been feeling a lot better lately too. Because I go through depressive episodes, and I kind of was in one for I don't know, a while, a couple weeks back, but I feel like I'm out of it, and I'm feeling really good now too. So, what are some things that have, contributed to you being out of the blues now?
I don't know, really. It's like you yourself. Sometimes I just have depressive episodes where it may last a day, or it may last 2-3 weeks, where I just feel sorry for myself and I'm really hard on myself and stuff like that. And it just kind of faded away. And, and I'm just paying attention more, not that I didn't pay attention in class, but I feel like I'm more focused in class and I'm picking things up. The information's getting to me now.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
A veil's been lifted, sort of.
Exactly. Sometimes to fix your, depressive state, there's nothing you can do. You just have to, withstand it and, endure the hard times and then savor the good times. So, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I'm glad I'm feeling better too.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just been really happy today. So I'm going to talk really fast in this podcast. Very similar to my raid ad in the last one. I talked so fast in that one, but, so some things that are new with me, let's see, I kind of wrote some things down. One, I'm going to Alaska next week, so I'm really excited about that. So basically, a gym owner, he's flying me and Nikki down and giving us accommodation just to teach at his gym for a couple of days. So, I can't turn that down. I always wanted to see Alaska. So I'm super excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and a couple other things. I'm going to take a small break from making YouTube videos, not I'm depressed, I'm taking a break. I'm just doing some vlogs instead, which Ben is going to edit. And so it's going to give me 2 weeks off, which is going to be really nice just to, be able to breathe a little bit more. just because I'm working super hard lately. But yeah, I've got things figured out to work less hard and work less, and I'm really excited for the future.
That's great. Sure. Do you have any other camps coming up?
Yeah,
or any events like Alaska?
Yeah, I always forget to talk about things that are important and kind of sell things, but yeah, we're going to Mexico in January for Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu camp, and yeah, it's going to be really awesome. It's going to be 5 days of training, accommodation included, breakfast. It's going to be a really great time. It's in a surf town called Puerto Escondido, and yeah, I'll have more details soon on that. And then also doing one in Trinidad Tobago in May. So yeah, things are just so cool. The YouTube channel is just created so many opportunities for me. So
everything's clicking now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly. One thing too I might do, I'm not sure, because I got to decide really soon. I might run for city council in Trenton. So yeah, I've been thinking about that. I just don't know how much of a time commitment it is or isn't, because they don't really say how many hours it is a week. Is it do you work 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, 20 hours a week? I don't know. So I wish they'd be more, yeah, I wish they kind of have that written down or, well known, because yeah, because, that's my whole goal, right? Start small and work my way up and become the prime minister one day.
They need fresh blood in there for sure.
I agree. It's all old people that don't have their, the public's best interest at heart and kind of are out of touch. So
I agree.
Yeah. And I think that if you're if you have good ideas and you're kind of a leader, I think you have the duty to, you have a duty to, do these kind of things. So that's kind of my mentality. So start with city council, and next thing I know, prime minister candidate. That's my goal.
You got my vote. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we'll start off with some viewer questions. Let's start off with Jose.
What's up, guys? My name's Jose. I'm a blue belt from Australia. First of all, I just want to say I love the podcast, and I also love the fact that you guys got 2 black belts and a blue belt. I think that's a really interesting format. My question is, what got you guys into jiu-jitsu? What made you guys start?
Yeah, first off, yeah, I'm glad you like the podcast. I think it's really cool. Everyone always really likes the dynamic of 2 black belts and a blue belt. And people always compliment Mike, because he's a blue belt. They're always they just like having a blue belt perspective on the channel. And, people said they like his mustache too.
It's gone now.
Yeah, I think you should grow it back. I really liked it.
I might.
But yeah, in terms of what got us into jiu-jitsu, we kind of discussed it a little bit in the first podcast, but yeah, I just, I liked MMA, and in my eyes, okay, I'm going to be a UFC champion. So that's my mentality going into it. But, then there's no gym close by that had striking. So I only could learn, jiu-jitsu. And then I just fell in love with that. And then, I do striking now in MMA, but, my first love is definitely jiu-jitsu for sure.
Myself, I had just gotten clean and sober and needed something to replace that, and came across jiu-jitsu, and it was fantastic. I did a little bit of it in my younger days, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. And here I am today, 3.5 years later, still clean and sober, and thanks to the jiu-jitsu class. Thanks, Jordan.
So, Mike, did you get clean and sober to start jiu-jitsu, or was that kind of a coincidence? It kind of all happened at the same time?
I started jiu-jitsu 2 weeks after I quit taking pain medication.
Wow.
Yeah, cold turkey.
Cold turkey, man. Yeah. That's brutal.
Yeah, it was absolutely brutal. But just about at the time that the withdrawals subsided, then I started jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good.
It gave me something to focus on. I could didn't have to think about taking that next pill. I could focus on not getting my arm snapped. Yeah.
Did you hit rock bottom or something that made you decide, okay, this is enough. I got to quit?
Yeah, this was my 3rd overdose.
Wow.
First 2 were not too bad. The 3rd one, I definitely was on death's door, vomited, found laying on my side. And if somebody didn't find me, I wouldn't be at this podcast today. So yeah, that was a rude awakening. That snapped me awake pretty quick.
Yeah, it's crazy how much your life can change, right? Because you were in that position where almost next to dying, and now you do jiu-jitsu, have a great life. You're on the podcast. People appreciate you and your time.
It's night and day, and that too, health-wise too. I've lost 60 pounds since I started, and it's crazy. Everything's changed.
Because I remember when you did start, you were a little, I don't know, a little bigger,
yeah.
And you just looked totally different.
I was 215. Now I'm 155.
Yeah, and it wasn't muscle of 215. It was
it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's benefited me greatly. I appreciate it a lot.
You have been pretty jacked at times. That I've known you. You really fluctuated in your size and the way you look. It's even when you just shave your beard or get a different haircut, you just look totally different. So it's
I'm a chameleon.
Yeah, I got the same thing too. I always look different, especially when you look back, like, like past pictures of me. I look so different, like year to year almost. Even.
Yeah, I find that too.
Yeah, it's a really strange thing, but
wait till you hit 40.
Yeah. 9 more years. It's hopefully it's a slow 9 years. So what about you, Joey? What got you started?
I used to be like an MMA fan, and then I had a friend who just asked me if I wanted to do jiu-jitsu, and I was like, sure, like how bad could this be? So I showed up and I actually loved it. I think he quit after 2 weeks, but I just fell in love with it and couldn't stop.
Yeah. Do you think do you think a lot of people kind of join with a friend because it kind of eases their mind that way?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have done it on my own, honestly. I think having someone to go with, it's like a little less stressful because like first time going, like it is brand new for you. You don't really know what you're getting into, and like it's nerve wracking. It's something like really foreign to start. So like having the friend to come with was really helpful for me.
Yeah, I always find it funny when people come as friends and the one that dragged the other one there quits and then the other one starts training. We've had that happen a couple times.
Yeah, that was the exact case for me. Like he quit like within 2 weeks, just couldn't handle it. I just loved it. And I was like, well, I'm not quitting now. So
yeah, I mean, if he loved it and, stuck with it, he could be a black belt by now too, you know? It's like you're going to be somewhere in 10 years and might as well be a black belt. And in that case, that was 10 years ago or a little more. So he could be a black belt, right? But yeah, everyone has different interests and everything like that. So yeah, when I started jiu-jitsu though, I kind of had a strange approach. Like, I bought a gi before I even tried a class. I just knew I was going to like it. And I like tried to like learn some triangles and stuff watching like instructionals that I downloaded. And so I used Nikki as the uki, as the demonstrator. And we had no idea what we were doing. But like, I knew I was going to love jiu-jitsu. I knew it was going to be like my new passion. And yeah, it's a strange thing knowing that and then it becoming true. Just like the YouTube channel, like I knew I was going to be successful and everything that happened was going to happen. And then it does happen. You're like, wow, like this is weird how, you kind of manifest things. So yeah.
A quick question. Was Nikki in jiu-jitsu before you or did you guys start together?
Nikki started she tried jiu-jitsu like a year after I started training, and she just didn't really like the environment at the gym and just didn't feel very comfortable. Like I dragged her out when I was like covering some classes teaching, and I was only a white belt teaching too, but didn't have anyone else to cover, and she really liked it when I was teaching and running the class. But then when the instructor came back, and then she didn't really like it as much. She's like, oh, this is kind of like I feel uncomfortable and kind of stale, and it's kind of funny because at that time I didn't really realize that. That was kind of the atmosphere. I was just like kind of used to it. But then I was like, no, Nikki's like, it's great. What are you talking about? And then kind of over time, I started realizing, okay, what she's saying is actually really true. And this isn't where I want to be either. So then I left that gym and joined a different gym.
That's good.
Yeah. People ask me all the time though, if we started together or no, if we if like we met through jiu-jitsu, but no, we met in grade 7 and we started talking in grade 7, started dating in grade 8. So I was just 12 years old. And, that was like, yeah, we've been together a long ass time.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. It's a crazy story, but it's the same kind of thing. It's like, me and Nikki, we knew we were going to be together forever. We knew it was going to happen. Even back then we were like picking like names for, kids we were going to have and just like planning everything out. And then it actually happens. It's like, wow, it's really strange how things work out in life.
You're a lucky man. Yeah.
Yeah, I am. I'm very fortunate to have like a life partner, not just like a wife, but someone that's like, been my partner for, for literally the majority of my life. So, and yeah, I'm really lucky that way. So yeah, let's do another, and like I said, I'm talking so freaking fast. I can feel it. I just like, when I'm happy, when I become like manic, I just like can't stop talking like, but hopefully it's all right. So we'll take another viewer question from John Chin.
Hi, Jordan, Mike, and Joey. Really been enjoying the podcast. Been watching it religiously every time it comes out. Really appreciate the content you've been putting out. My question is, how do you balance weight training outside of jiu-jitsu? I started jiu-jitsu 3 months ago, but before that, I was going to the gym, lifting weights, mostly been doing the power lifts and a little bit of bodybuilding. I find that when I do jiu-jitsu, it's hard to balance the recovery for both weight training and jiu-jitsu. Right now, my current focus is jiu-jitsu because I've been really enjoying it. But yeah, really appreciate any insight you guys can give. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a tough thing because, it's hard to specialize in both, which, like you said, you're kind of focusing on jiu-jitsu. And if you already have like a base of strength of like, you've been lifting for a long time, I think at this point, the best thing to do is just maintain your strength and maybe just work out like once a week or twice and kind of go lighter, especially with the compound lifts. And so we talked about it before, but you want like the hard days and light days, like recovery days. If you go like, it doesn't make sense to roll really hard on Monday and then lift on Tuesday and then roll really hard on Monday. You're doing like really hard days back to back to back, no time for recovery. So you need to like lift hard or lift on like a Monday, train hard on Monday too, and then have Tuesday be more like a lighter day to recover.
Yeah. I mean, also like you said powerlifting. I don't know if necessarily lifting the way you would lift to train for like powerlifting is the best approach to like lift for getting better at jiu-jitsu or like maintaining that strength. Like lifting for powerlifting in itself is pretty physically demanding. And like you said, like it's really hard to be as good as you can be or train to get better at two things. Like if you're trying to get really good at two different things, what's most likely going to happen is you'll kind of get a little bit better at two things, as opposed to if you pick one thing, you can get really good at that and stay good at the other one. So like when I lift for the purpose of jiu-jitsu. Like if my lifting would make me too sore to train, I don't do it. I make sure that I lift just enough that I'm sore and I'm getting benefit, but that I can still train.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people overtrain, like they'll go like past failure and everything. And that's just a recipe for disaster if you just continually train hard like that, So it's really good to pace yourself. And, like you said, like you want to like specialize in one thing, not like do two things to try to get better. So it's very similar to a lot of people, they want to do jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai to, progress at both. But in my opinion, it's like best to like pick one and specialize in that and kind of do the other one. Like, you can still do it, but like not really focus on it as much, because that was my approach. And kind of off topic, but like, I got really good at jiu-jitsu and then I started getting better at Thai, but I didn't like, I didn't do both right away. And sometimes people at the gym, they want to do both right away and then they just kind of burn out from both. So, if you do too much, maybe you can handle it for like a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, but then you start to burn out and then it affects both sports. And the same thing with lifting and jiu-jitsu.
That's what happened with me when I started at the gym. I was doing Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu, and after about a week I was like, yeah, no, I can't do two. And I liked jiu-jitsu more, so
exactly.
I stuck with it. Yeah.
Exactly. So my recommendation for like that type of scenario is like, if you do want to do both, do like, 1 or 2 days of Thai and then do a lot more jiu-jitsu, but don't do like every single day doing both or something like that for sure. And same thing with lifting. So yeah. But before we move on, Joey, I know you were, in your university, you were part of like the golf team and they let you practice in like the pro lifting area. What was that like?
It was pretty cool. Like they had like a specialty gym for like the athletes of like on a varsity team. So it was nice like going to a gym and not having like, 150 people in there. You could work on whatever you wanted like all the time. You had all the weights you could want. I probably should have used it as a resource more than I did. I basically just kind of went and did my own thing anyways, but it was definitely nice not having to like, wait on people or like modify your exercises, and anything you wanted, it was there. And they did have like athletic trainers and people who would help you learn some stuff. So like I did learn a couple little things that were helpful.
That's pretty cool. It must just feel cool too, just being part of a varsity sports, for university.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Joey's actually a pretty good golfer.
Yeah, not as much anymore. I really I picked jiu-jitsu over golf for the last year, and it's like you said, like it's really hard to be really good at two things. So I kind of had to pick one that I let slide, and I've been really feeling jiu-jitsu more lately, so I picked that.
Yeah, exactly. Because Joey used to take like summers off just to golf, and it'd be really kind of crappy for us because we like, we enjoy training with Joey, and he'd just be gone and we don't know when he's coming back. And it's like you said, you can only kind of specialize in one thing, maybe do the other one kind of more recreationally, and lifting be the same way. You can't like, train to be a power lifter. You can do powerlifting exercises, but not like, really try to train like a true power lifter. So this question is from Joey, not this Joey, a different one.
Hey guys, love the podcast. My question is, should a 4-stripe white belt be able to get his blue belt if he has never rolled?
I would say probably not. And like, you know, unless it's like extreme circumstances, like, you know, maybe they have like a physical disability or a mental disability, then it's like the standard is kind of different that way. And, you know, you kind of make exception for them, but they'd have to demonstrate like, you know, technical ability still. But, you know, it's got to be tough to even get 4 stripes on your white belt if you don't roll. Like that'd be very, you know, unique situation.
Isn't that how you advance well, is to pressure test, you know, against somebody else, right? That's how you can see how far you've progressed since 2 months ago. Is that not a way of measuring as well?
Yeah, but just, you know, just say like, you know, someone has like a broken back or
oh,
not
no,
broken,
for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I mean, like in those scenarios, it's like, do you want to hold them back? And like, are they blue belt level? Can they be? You know, it's like, it's a tough thing because jiu-jitsu is so pressure tested, like you said, and that's what separates it from other martial arts that, you know, some of them can be a little, I don't know what the word to use is, but you know, yeah, not as legit.
I know there are some organizations or affiliations that do like belt testing online. Like you can send in videos of you performing like a curriculum of moves on like a dummy or a friend or something, and they'll give you stripes just based on being able to do the moves. But like, I'm sure that for some people that's really cool, but I think if you went to like a regular gym where people roll all the time, you'd probably get smashed pretty hard by people who've done them on resisting opponents, because it's like, even when you show technique as an instructor, it's really, you watch people do it, and after a couple tries, most people can get most techniques right. And it's not really that hard. You figure out the motions, maybe get a little instruction on how to move, little adjustments to change. It's really different when you try it on someone who's trying not to let you do that.
Yeah, way different. And, you know, it can be kind of frustrating in one sense. Just, I don't know, maybe that's not the right word, but sometimes I see people in the perfect position to do things that I've taught them like recently, and they just don't have the, you know, they just don't go for it because maybe they don't have the confidence or the realization that it's there for them. So, you know, yeah, it can be so hard to actually implement techniques, you know, in a live situation unless you've done it many times. That's why we roll so much in jiu-jitsu. That's how we progress. So yeah, it's, yeah, that's a tough one for sure. I would say probably not. Probably they shouldn't. But again, circumstantial for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So this one's from our buddy Travis from the Elbows Type podcast, and you know, just give another shout out. That like I really enjoyed that podcast, and you know, I don't listen to a lot of jiu-jitsu podcasts, but I listened to that one. So just like we said, you know, on the last podcast, we really liked More Impressed, Less Impressed, More Involved as the Jiu-Jitsu channel. That's like one of my favorite YouTube Jiu-Jitsu channels. Well, this is like one of my favorite Jiu-Jitsu Jiu-Jitsu podcasts. So definitely check out Elbows Type podcast, and we'll take the question.
What's up, guys? Travis here. Congratulations, Jordan, on your recent promotion. And it had me thinking, do you guys feel somewhat of imposter syndrome, or that you're not legitimate at your belt until you get that first stripe or promotion? Loving the content and keep up the good work. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Travis. You know, I've never felt that way. And like the day I got my black belt, I felt like this is what I deserve. This is what I should be. And, you know, I felt that with every single belt. I never had imposter syndrome that way. And, you know, this is the truth of the matter is like belts don't really completely matter. It's like I can roll with people and I don't know what belt they are. Like, it doesn't matter what they have around their waist. Like this, like the skill level, like really, it fluctuates so much between people. So, you know, yeah, if I go to like another gym and like I can roll like a brown belt and they'll give me not as much trouble as maybe a blue belt that's good there, that's like athletic. And yeah, so like, yeah, belts don't really matter a whole much. What do you think, Joey?
I kind of agree. Like I have imposter syndrome a lot of the time, but I think it's just one of those things that like you've got to learn your own way to deal with it. I don't think like getting a stripe changes that. I mean, I've had it at other belts and you get a stripe and you just have now imposter syndrome over the stripe. It doesn't change the problem. But I definitely agree that like the belts really don't matter like in the grand scheme of things. I think part of the problem is there's no real actual like criteria for like what is a blue belt. And like you can go to 20 gyms and you'll get blue belts like all over the place in different skills. You ask 20 instructors what they look for in a blue belt and you're going to get different answers. So like the belt, I guess, matters in a way in that it's like at your gym, it's like you're meeting some sort of criteria, but like they're not necessarily comparable between gyms. Like you can roll with a different blue belt and lose. And it's like, well, their gym just had a different criteria, different standard, different like education method. Like I don't think they really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. It's like they matter, but not in a way of like determining skill and, difficulty for someone to roll with, really. I mean, they matter in the sense that they gauge progression and within their specific gyms more so than like being more like a universal type of standard. So yeah, it just varies so much. Like there's some higher belts out there I've rolled with that, I know like some of our blue belts would just handle just fine. So yeah, it's just a strange thing. For people that don't know how like the degrees work for black belts, like you get your first degree after 3 years, and then you get your second degree after another 3 years, and then you get your third one after another 5 years after that. So, it's just time in at this point. It's like, I do think it's cool having a degree on my belt, but it's like, that's pretty much it. I think it's kind of cool. It doesn't really change anything. It's just, okay, I've been a black belt 3 years now. And it's just time in.
What do you think about that system? Because like, I personally think it's a really good idea. Like especially at black belt, things would become so subjective if it was like giving stripes based on merit. But I like the idea, since it is a belt like you can have for 2 years, you could have the black belt for 55, 60, 70 years. I think it's a good way of delineating like, yes, you're a black belt, but how long have you been a black belt kind of thing? Yeah,
exactly. I think it is a good idea for black belts that way, because it would just be like a weird thing to say someone's like a really good black belt. Well, now you give them like 5 stripes or something, it's like 5 degrees. And, but I think it's really important to be like truthful with everything in jiu-jitsu and in life. I think sometimes people, they overestimate how good like a red belt, like a coral belt might be. And I'm not talking shit about them. I'm just saying like, a coral belt just kind of represents how long you've been training. You've been training a long ass time if you have a red and white belt around your waist. But, it doesn't make you some mythical creature that can just like demolish anyone. It's like, sometimes people think that they're like, oh, I want to see you roll the coral belt. But it's like, well, those guys are a lot older than me. And, I don't think it would be quite fair to them. It's like, I'm like a young athletic guy, technical, and, they're definitely technical and have a lot of wisdom and tricks up their sleeves and everything like that. But, they're older, you have to be, I don't know how long do you have to be a black belt until you can get your coral belt?
I want to say the earliest you could get it in life is somewhere in your 60s. Yeah. I might be wrong. It might be late 50s, but it's a long time.
Yeah. And all the technique in the world isn't going to make you be able to, to beat up like someone that's also very good and athletic and a black belt. So yeah, it's just kind of a funny thing, because I don't think people should have unrealistic expectations of people and kind of put people on the pedestal that way. So yeah, I think it's important you kind of mention that.
Also important, like if you're ever, learning from like a coral belt or something, like maybe don't expect them to be an expert on things like barambolos and stuff. Like remember, these are guys who got their black belts like 50 years ago. They're really good at probably technically at like the basics and the fundamentals and what jiu-jitsu was. But like over time, like I'm sure a 60-year-old guy isn't going back to learn the barambolo now that he's been a black belt for 40 years.
Yeah. And like, it's just like, I don't ever want to sound like I'm talking shit. It's just like the reality is that like back then jiu-jitsu was so much different. And I think they have a more limited skill set in that sense, just because even like half guard was like became popular like in the 90s, right? So, it was just closed guard basically before that. It was such a limited sport before it kind of progressed into what it is now. So there's a lot of guards and positions that I think they might be unfamiliar with. And yeah, they understand the way the body works and moves because they're experts at it. But yeah, I just think they might have a more limited skill set than someone that's, doing everything now. It's almost like, if someone's like a mechanic and they've been a mechanic like 60 years or something, like, yeah, they probably know a lot about cars and they probably, can really help you, but maybe they can't quite help. And like, if you have a more like a modern type car that has like, more modern features that they're unfamiliar with. And yeah, it's just, again, just important to understand that.
Yeah, like just for example, the leg lock game in the last 10 years have exploded. If you were to take a grappler or a black belt from today and go back in time 30 years, I think you would really screw their ankles up pretty bad in their knees. You know what I mean? They wouldn't know a lot of leg locks, I don't think, would they?
No, even 10 years ago, even because it's crazy. When I was training, like 10 years ago when I first started, if you do like a leg lock or a heel hook, you're like you're cheap, and people are going to try to kill you after. They're like, this cheap bastard, leg locked me, heel hooked me, screw this guy, and now it's just like part of the sport. So it's really grown so much that way. And, you know, just in general, jiu-jitsu has changed so much in the last 10 years. It's just insane. The sport itself and the culture around it. It was so different back then. It was so much more culty, and it was just acceptable to be culty. And now it's like, if you have like cultish, you know, attributes to your gym, you're gonna get called out, and people don't like that kind of stuff. There's gyms out there that are still very, very much like that. But yeah, it's like, it's not like it was.
Yeah, and just to like, so people don't think, you know, we're ragging on like the old black belts who've been black belts for a long time and pretending we're better because we know the modern stuff. Like, I'll be the first person to admit there's going to come a day when I'm that old man who doesn't know the new stuff, and the blue belts are asking you questions and you're like, what are you talking about? I don't know what moves you're making up nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's really important to say that, because I always worry my words will be twisted or misinterpreted. But it's like, yeah, we're not talking shit, just the reality of the situation. And like Joey said, when we're older, it's going to be different too. And, you know, I think 60 is like the earliest you can get it, but that means that you were, you know, black belt as soon as you can get it, like 19 years old. So, you know, you have been training your whole life, or basically before then, to get your black belt that early. So it's a very, very few people have been, you know, are in that situation where they're only 60 and they have a coral belt. That's like, a lot of times older, it's like 70 or even older than that. So yeah. And so we'll take a voice question from Dennis.
Hey, Jordan. Quick question for you regarding etiquette at a visiting school, and really specifically technical etiquette. I know some schools, you obviously want to be respectful, wear the right things, but I'm talking specifically about technique. The school I train at, our instructor is awesome. You actually mentioned him from your role in Costa Rica, but we really kind of have free reign to do whatever technique-wise, obviously, as long as we're doing it correctly. And in talking with another buddy of mine who's at a little bit more of a traditional school, he was surprised to hear me going for things like knee bars and heel hooks as a white belt. I'm not the kind of person that ever cranks a submission in my mind, especially as a white belt. If I can't get it slow and steady, then I don't have the technique right and should work on that more than the submission itself. But is going to another gym and doing some of these moves as a white belt really going to ruffle feathers? Just want to get an idea for what I should and shouldn't do. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you know, I think it will ruffle feathers. And I think that if another gym does things different from your gym, you know, you're a guest in their gym and you need to, you know, respect what they do and how they do things. So, you know, I wouldn't be doing like leg locks on them if they're, you know, that's not what they're all about. But, you know, personally, I think that it should be fine for white belts, you know, because again, it's like any submission can be dangerous if you crank it. It's not the submission itself that's the problem. It's the user. So, you know, not to bring it such a controversial subject in talking about guns, but it's kind of similar that way, where it's like, you know, people, you know, it's like guns don't kill people, people kill people. It's the same thing with people that hurt people in jiu-jitsu. It's not the submission that, you know, it's hurting the person. It's the person doing the submission. So, you know, I think that, I think that it's totally fine for white belts to learn that stuff as long as they're respectful as anyone is. Because there's people there's purple belts, brown belts, black belts that crank stuff too. So it's not always dependent on the belt, but at the same time, most people get wiser and more controlled as they get better in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, fantastic that like your instructor lets you do that, and I think that's the right approach. But if you are a guest, you should follow their rules. I mean, like if a gym said white gis only or something and you're dropping in to visit, you shouldn't be upset if you can't wear your black gi. Like that's the rule of the gym. If they're there and they say no leg locks or something, that's fine. But also like important, don't just assume that they're not okay to do because their guys don't do them. The coach might say, yeah, you can do them. I just don't really teach them much. So please don't hurt people if you do them. Like it might help his students. Like always check and ask, like, is it a rule that I can't do this? Like make sure. And like, if you do them, definitely maybe like let go or be careful more than you would in your own gym, even because you don't want to be that guy who goes to other gyms and hurts people. Like you really don't want that reputation. Yeah, exactly. I remember I went to a grading once at another gym and I was just twisting everyone. I wasn't hurting them, but I don't know. I was just like really in the mood for twisters. So, and I kind of felt like afterwards, some of them were like pissed, even though I didn't hurt them. But I felt like I shouldn't have done that. But now I know.
I was just going to ask you guys if you've ever been to any other gyms and had stuff like that happen? Like you didn't kneel while you're tying your belt and got in trouble, or, you know, you threw your belt to the side, and you know what I mean? You always hear stories of that, going to somebody else's gym and pissing them off somehow.
Yeah, it hasn't happened to me, that kind of stuff, but someone at our gym did go to another gym, and they threw their belt to the side instead of tying it back on, and they got yelled at by another person there. And the person didn't own the gym or anything; they were just like a brown belt or something, and they like yelled at them, like trying to lecture them. It's like, you know, maybe just tell them nicely that that's a rule at your gym, and, you know, again, because you're at that gym, respect their rules, but yeah, don't yell at people either just because they didn't follow the rule. Yeah, that's lame.
Yeah, I've never had anything like that happen. As a blue belt, I did drop into a gym, and they told me at the desk when I dropped in, like, there's no leg locks for anyone below brown belt. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And the first 3 rolls, everyone tried to leg lock me. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I was told I can't do this. And like, you know, people go for ankle locks and they leave their ankle like super exposed. And you're like, I really want to ankle lock him because he's trying to ankle lock me and I can finish this. But they told me I can't. And after I was like, am I not allowed to do this? And one of the guys who was rolling was like, who told you that? I was like, the person at the front desk. He's like, no, we can do leg locks. I was like, why'd you tell me I couldn't then?
I guess they're just trying to handicap you.
It was really strange. I've never experienced anything like that, but it was interesting.
Yeah, normally, well, I used to ask more. Like when I was a lower belt, I used to ask, like, you know, our leg locks cool here? Is it all right? And just to make sure if I visit another gym. But I don't know. Now I feel like because I'm a black belt, I can kind of just do what I want. Maybe that's just like entitlement, like mentality. But it's just like, I feel like people just trust a black belt isn't going to hurt them and not going to do anything dumb. So like, I just don't think there's any issue there. So yeah, I think it's just a little different kind of as you go up in belt level, but maybe I'm wrong too. Like I said, I'm just being entitled.
I feel safer when I roll with a black belt than I do with a white belt. That's for damn sure. You know,
yeah, exactly.
I know you guys know what you're doing.
That's what I mean. It's like a black belt puts you in a twister. Like how worried should you be about, you know, getting injured? Well, you know, I say that, but then I think about, well, there are some black belts out there that, you know, that I know that would go hard and hurt someone potentially.
You would hope not, though. Like you would, like if I remember being a lower belt and rolling with black belts, and you kind of feel a sense of like, I would assume this guy knows how to roll without crippling me.
Yeah, exactly. And at the same time, it's like never good to assume, you know, the same time, because there's people out there that are just awful. But yeah, I agree. So we'll take this one. This was Andrew from Ireland.
Hey Jordan, it's Andrew from Ireland. I'm just asking, what's your opinion on like hyper-specific training, so, or positional stuff, like where you'd start inside control or bottom mount or in a submission or, you know, in just a bad spot and you just work escapes and recovery and stuff, or start the roll from there or just work till you score or something like that. I've heard like several different opinions on it. Some people think it's good to start there. Some people, like I was just talking about this today, someone was like, oh, I don't think it's a great idea to start bottom mount when you shouldn't be getting your guard pass getting put into mount. It'd be more beneficial to start 2 rounds all about guard retention if that's the case. Like, so I just like, what's your opinion on stuff like that?
Yeah, you know, I think it's a great idea to do hyper specific situations, because then you're very comfortable in these situations, and not just very like, you know, what's the word? Not just very like common positions like mount itself, but even like things like, you know, you have you're in half guard, they have the underhook, and now you got to drill to, you know, be able to remedy this. So, you know, the more specific, the better, even unless it's like, you know, insane specific. But even then, it has its you know, yeah, it has its pros. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think, like, not to call anyone out or be a dick, but the idea that you shouldn't drill mount escapes because you shouldn't get your guard passed seems like the craziest thing I've ever heard someone say. Yeah. If you're really relying on your guard to never get passed, like that's just a recipe for asking to be mounted and lose.
And a great example is just like, you know, I don't spend a lot of time in bad positions just because, you know, like I own the gym. So like most people I roll with are my students. And so I think that is one area that I had lacked in for a long time, was like my escapes weren't great. But now that I do put myself in bad positions often when I roll, like my escapes have gotten so much better. So, you know, that guy could argue like, well, you know, why would you do that? It would just get better at like not getting those positions. Well, now I'm more of a complete grappler. So yeah, I don't agree with his opinion.
Yeah, I definitely like, I always consider myself someone who has like a pretty decent guard, but I think one of the reasons I can have a decent guard is because I know if something goes wrong, I can probably escape. Like I'm a pretty, you know, squirrely little fella. I can get out of a lot of things. So, but I think knowing that you have good escapes lets you take risks in other parts of your game, because like I was explaining to someone the other day that like if you can't escape side control, how are you ever going to feel comfortable attacking from guard, like going for a triangle? Because if you miss, you just lose now because you can't get out of side control. So like you have to drill these bad spots to get comfortable enough to know that like I went for a triangle. It's not the end of the world if I fail and miss and they pass. Obviously we don't want that, but if I do, it's not the end of the world because I know I can get back to my guard and try again.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. And I think, yeah, you kind of nailed it. I think that is a great spot to practice, to drill from. Like triangles themselves, you go for a triangle, let the person escape, and then now you have to retain your guard. So, the last video I posted on YouTube, the one between Pinder and Mike, Mike had a triangle on Pinder, and Pinder escaped. And he didn't know what to do. So I showed, you should stiff arm and frame so you can, shrimp back to your guard, or kind of do like judo hip throw I do. So he didn't have any familiarity with that. So if he were to drill that, then he would have no problem. He wouldn't have got his guard passed.
I start in a lot of bad positions just for that reason, so I can get better at it. I give my back to a lot of people when I'm rolling, especially if they're newer or lighter or younger or faster than me. I'll give them my back and I'll start there. And now my escapes are getting a lot better. And as soon as I get better at that, I'll switch to another, and hopefully everything will improve in time.
Yeah, especially smaller people and just like lower belts. I have like no issue at all putting myself in bad positions, because yeah, it's kind of fun too, because you don't find yourself there very often. You kind of want to see what they can do too. Like, yeah, sometimes I just like seeing what someone's trying to do, because especially if they're really trying hard to do something, I'm just like wondering like, what is it that you're trying to do? And, and so I just kind of let them kind of work and move. And it's like, they don't even know what they're trying to do sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's good practice for them too, because that's the kind of person who might not get to those spots very often, especially against someone who has like good defense like you do. So they actually get to practice something that maybe they don't get to practice very often, which like it just helps both of you.
Yeah, it's such like win-win. And so you don't have to win. You don't have to be trying to beat someone every single second of the round, unless like, you have like a tournament coming up or something like that, or, whatever it is. Like there's like different approaches that you should take at different times in your training to really become a complete grappler. So let's take this question from Shane.
Hey, Jordan, how you doing? I need your thought and perspective on this. So I just started jiu-jitsu back in March, so I've been doing it several months now. And I've been picking up on it really fast. When I roll, I do win majority of my rolls and against other white belts respectively. But however, I am a relatively antisocial kind of a person, kind of just show up to train, don't really show up to make friends and laugh and have fun. But I am a good partner. I do my thing. I give 100% full effort, and I show up, win a lot of my rolls, majority of my rolls, and, just leave. But lately I've been feeling like my instructors are getting this vibe from me where they believe that I am some kind of a cocky person, and since I don't talk to anybody, I do win majority of my roles, and I do learn a lot of stuff from YouTube outside of what I learn in class. And I bring a lot of that to the mats. And I feel like they're looking at me like, oh, where did he learn that? Like, how did he do this? In their heads, obviously, I've never been told directly, but I get bad vibes because of certain scenarios that have occurred, to where I feel like I'm being singled out and being put against higher belts, even up to black belts, just so that I can kind of be humbled in a sense. What do I do?
Yeah, so people like throughout my jiu-jitsu career have thought I've been cocky for so long, until like I feel like it kind of like switched when they kind of realized, okay, Jordan's actually good, and it's just confidence. But for a long time, people like did not like me because they thought I was cocky and they talk shit, and yeah, they're just like assholes in general. So yeah, so I can kind of relate with that. And it's kind of a strange thing too, how you can like pick up on people's vibes, like energy. I find that such a strange like phenomenon, but you can pick up on that. And what I would do personally, I would just call them out on it. I wouldn't be like rude or anything. I would just be like, I kind of sense like you guys kind of view me as like a cocky person, or I'm like, maybe I'm doing something wrong. I kind of get some strange vibes from you guys. And I guarantee if you call them out in a very nice way, where you don't sound like you're being, abrasive at all, or like challenging them, then they're going to completely change their attitude. And yeah, what do you guys think?
I think it's very possible that if they're like setting higher belts to roll with you and you're winning a lot of your rounds against other white belts, it might not be to humble you. It might be like your coach is being like, okay, I want to know how, like, is this guy just really athletic and better than these other white belts? Or like, what is his actual technique against people who know what they're doing? So like the only way to do that is to give him a higher belt. How do you fare against this? Or like give him someone who's really good and see like, how do you handle yourself against someone who's good? Because I know like as a black belt, you've definitely seen guys who come into the gym who, you know, strong, athletic, maybe young white belt, pretty good for white belt. And they beat up a lot of white belts, but they kind of almost like the idea of like, and I'm not saying this is the person who asked the question, but like as an example, like they like being the guy who wins all the rounds, and they kind of only pick partners that they're going to win rounds against rather than picking the hard rounds. And like, as a coach, that's not really healthy. So you want to try and like, hey, that guy's, you know, picking a lot of easy partners. He's winning a lot of rounds. Let's try and give him some people who might push him, might make him realize where he needs to improve.
That could definitely be the scenario, 100%. It could also be the scenario where they kind of feel like threatened in the sense that like they might feel like, okay, maybe he thinks our gym isn't good because all our white belts, you know, aren't giving him a challenge. And the only people we can really show him that our gym is good with is like the higher belts. So that's like, that's definitely possible, because that sometimes happens when people like they visit gyms. It's like you have to like prove your gym is good. So I don't know if that's the scenario. Like it's hard to say, but yeah, that's like, it's hopefully like things get resolved, because, you know, awkward vibes and everything and awkward energy is just like, it just makes training not as fun.
Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine. Like for myself, that's where I'm most social, is at the gym, right? So it's hard for me to relate. I can understand where he's coming from, but it's hard for me to relate to it.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's so different. There's some people at the gym, like our gym, they socialize with everyone, and there are some people that just come and they train, they leave, and that's it. It's like it's like I wouldn't want that to be my approach, but you know, everyone's different in what they enjoy, and so yeah.
Some of my favorite parts about class is right before class when we're all sitting in a circle shooting the shit. How's your day? How's it going? Everybody's laughing. Like, and I love the class too, but I mean, it's the social part that brings it all together for me anyways. Yeah,
exactly. I always like during the kids class, I see all the adults come in, they're all talking to each other, having a great time. I'm like, damn, I want to be out there, talking, whatever. But yeah, I really enjoy seeing that. But even though sometimes they freaking talk so loud while I'm trying to talk to the kids, like give them like say like some updates and stuff like that. Then you have like, you know, just people having a good time. So I understand it's some specific people that talk so freaking loud that like Aaron talks so goddamn loud. I'm trying to do the Patreon videos, and Darren too, Aaron and Darren. I'm trying to do the Patreon videos at the end of the night, and they're just like talking like, can you guys not hear each other at a lower volume? Like, why your guys' ears broken? But yeah, no, it's all good. I really like Aaron and Darren, so I'm just talking shit. And yeah, shout out to Darren, like a great training partner. And yeah, shout out to Aaron too. He's been in like a couple of my videos. So yeah, let's take this question from Hector.
Hey, Jordan, Mike, and Joey. This is Hector from Miami, Florida. First, I want to thank you for all the great content, Jordan, that you put out there. It's super helpful to me, for everybody I show. Also, if you're listening to this and you're not on Jordan's Patreon, I suggest you do it. He's putting his classes on there, and it's super, super helpful. It's like you're in the class. It's really cool. So, guys, my question is actually regarding cauliflower ear. First, I want to know if any of you have it. If you do, how do you treat it? How do you avoid it? All right, guys. Thanks. Hope to train with you guys soon. Bye.
Yeah, first off, thank you, Hector. I really appreciate that. And like I said kind of before, I'm not great at like selling stuff just because, I just like, I don't know, just my mentality. It's like, I don't want to create any expectations, but I do think it is cool that I have my classes on Patreon now. I film them, and I'm glad people are liking them. I teach fundamentals because like that's what I teach at the gym. I only teach twice a week jiu-jitsu. It's kind of strange. I used to teach every single class, but now I got Joey and other guys to teach. And so people have been asking me, do you teach beginner or advanced? But you know, I just teach fundamentals. I teach the stuff that everyone needs to know. So it doesn't matter, you know, what belt level you are, you need to know this stuff. So yeah, if anyone out there wants to learn, you know, fundamentals, which you should, then check out my Patreon. It starts at $5 a month, and it doesn't start. It's like pay what you want. You can pay $5, $10, $15. You can do whatever you want. So yeah, I appreciate that. And first off, we should definitely go to Miami sometime. Like either you guys come or I'm going to go, because I saw plane tickets for $100 to Miami.
What?
$100 Canadian. Yeah,
that's unreal.
I couldn't believe it. Like how do they even make any money doing that? Like it is way cheaper to fly to Miami than it is to fly anywhere in Ontario or Canada.
You'd have to get me on a plane somehow, which would be very hard. You could just repeatedly choke me, and then
And drug you up.
Yeah.
I think you could
restart your addiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Jordan could probably just carry you like a child just in his arms.
I think I could. Yeah,
probably.
But yeah, so I can't believe it's $100. But yeah, in terms of your question for cauliflower ears, so yeah, I've got cauliflower ears, so I'll show it to the camera. It's nasty, and so like what to do with cauliflower ear. So if you start getting like blood filled up in your ear, you need to get it out, because the longer it's like that for, the more likely it is it's going to stay like that. So that's why you need to drain it to get the blood out, and it can start healing. And then once you have the blood out, then you need to make sure it doesn't get hit again, because if it gets hit again, it's going to restart the process, and it's going to be worse and worse. So you can do two things. One, you can take time off, which nobody likes to do. Or two, you can wear headgear, which really helps. And that's what I've done. And anytime it's flared up, I just like wore headgear, and it got rid of the problem. And when I didn't wear headgear is when it became permanent, and now I have a mangled looking ear. So this one kind of like my right one's mangled, and then my left one just sticks out like a monkey. So yeah, I don't recommend not draining it. I don't recommend not protecting it after it's been drained.
Another like good point is when you drain them, if you just pull the fluid out and then you leave it, it'll probably swell back up again. You want to like put something on it to like compress it and hold it down to prevent it from just refilling with fluid. Like I don't have cauliflower ears somehow. I don't know why. I play a game that really rubs my ears on people and they get mangled all the time. I guess I'm like immune to it. But I've drained a lot of ears over the years, and like even just putting like a cotton ball on each side of the ear with like a clothespin to hold it will really stop that fluid from building back up.
Yeah, exactly. You can buy like magnets too that do the same thing, because again, the longer it is in a position where it's not supposed to be, the more likely it is to harden and stay that way, because your ear is made out of cartilage. And when the cartilage separates from the skin, that's when, weird things start happening. I don't know exactly, but yeah.
I've heard really good things about those magnets, not to like try and sell a product that I've never used personally, but I have heard really good reviews on them.
Yeah. And it makes sense. It's such a basic thing that, they hold together and they hold your ear from swelling. So, I mean, you probably don't need to buy those like specific magnets. You just use any magnets, realistically. But if it's like a certain magnets might look kind of funny on your ear. It might look like a funny earring.
I don't have very bad cauliflower, just a little bit. My ears stick out a lot more than they used to, though.
Yeah, I got mine from doing single legs in MMA, because that was my main takedown for a long time, to shoot single, and I kept hitting my ear off people's hips. And I was just so like focused on training MMA and getting ready for fights that I just didn't care. So whatever, it's swollen and I'm deformed now, no big deal. But I actually I kind of like didn't not want them either. Like I thought it was kind of cool at the time, and now it's like I don't mind them, but I also don't like love them either. It's like I kind of rather not have them, but it is what it is. Not a huge deal.
It's always interesting to me how some people seem to get it after like a month of training, and then other people can go like decades without getting it. Like I wonder if there's like a genetic component. Like some people are like more just like predisposed to it.
Yeah, for sure. It's like if you have softer ears, then you're less likely to get cauliflower ear. And that's why a lot of girls don't get cauliflower ear, because they have soft ears in the sense of like their cartilage and everything isn't super hard. Yeah.
I must have soft ears.
Yeah, so, you and Joey both.
Yeah, I got soft ears if that's the case.
Yeah, I got hard ears, I guess. So, all right. This is from Jay Tucker.
Hey, Jordan, I really appreciate your podcast and your channel. It's really beneficial to me. My question is, what advice would you give me? I feel like I've just kind of hit a brick wall as far as my progress. I'm still training as much as I always have, and I'm not going to stop. Quitting's not an option, but what advice would you give me? Thanks, man.
Yeah, I guess just, switch it up and try new things. And, if you're like really good at like half guard, try a different guard, try closed guard or something like that, and just keep, working your game. It's like, there's not a lot of practical advice you can really give, I guess.
And like just remember that like progress in jiu-jitsu is not linear. Like it's not a steady climb. Like if you're hearing the audio, I'm going to talk with my hands for a second so you won't see it, but it's not like, a straight line of like getting better up the whole way. Like there's going to be ups and downs, but over time it trends in that straight line. So like I was talking with someone the other day who felt like, the last couple of weeks, they're like, I haven't been feeling it. I haven't been feeling like I'm getting better. And then they had an amazing week and they're like, oh, I really feel like I've taken a huge jump. And I'm like, in 1 week, did you really get drastically better? Probably not, but you were getting better that whole 4 or 5 weeks where you felt like you were having off weeks. It just didn't manifest and show itself until now, and you feel like you've taken a huge jump. So if you feel like you've almost like hit a plateau or you're like stabling out and not getting better, like just keep going, and I guarantee you eventually you'll take a huge leap forward and be like, oh, I made a leap. But it's not. It's all that hard work you put in when you felt like you weren't getting better.
That's a great point. And yeah, it's something I hadn't really thought of before, but it's very true that even when you're thinking you're not getting better, you are. It's just you're going through that, tougher time. And it's very similar to like stocks or anything. It's like, over time it goes up, but it's going to go up and down, but it gradually goes up. So, in the same kind of comparison to stocks, you can diversify your stocks when you're not doing too well with them. Or you can just hold on to them and just, ride it out, which is what you can do too. You don't need to actually change anything in your jiu-jitsu. You can, and it might help, but you don't have to. You probably still keep getting better either way.
I go through this a lot where I feel like I'm going nowhere, and then all of a sudden, boom, I feel like you said, I feel like I'm a lot better all of a sudden, but really I've been incrementally getting better the whole time. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. That happens to me almost every month.
Yeah, and it happens a lot too. Like I know a lot of people say like, oh, I haven't been trying anything new. I've kind of been doing the same stuff. So it's weird that I feel like I'm not getting better. But remember, like if you're training with the same partners, they're getting better at dealing with your game. So you might feel like you're not getting better or that, you're falling behind or not improving, but that couldn't just be your training partners actually catching up and getting better at you. And the only way to get better is to keep going and figure out how to counter their counters and adapt to their adaptations.
And that's something people forget all the time is that, as you get better, so do your training partners. You know what I mean? So, and then when a newer person comes in, you don't expect them to give you a challenge really as much anyway. So people get better without even realizing it and catch up to people without even realizing it. Nikki's a great example. It's like Nikki has a hard time still viewing herself as a brown belt and be able to compete against other browns and black belts, because when she was a lower belt, she kind of put them on the pedestal of these people are so good. And then I feel like she hasn't realized how much better she's gotten, because now she rolls to blue belts and whatever. They're no problem. They're easy, but it's it's just a flip situation, back before you were easy again for the higher belts, the brown and black belts, but now, you've caught up to them. So, I'm trying to encourage her to compete, and just have more confidence. She's really good. So yeah, I think, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think Nikki, unfortunately for her, she is small, so she's going to have a hard time with a lot of the bigger people, but I think she's maybe one of the most technical people I've ever rolled with.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
I really think highly of her game, and I know sometimes when I talk to her, you're like, man, if you could just be as confident in your game as I am in your game, you would not have a problem at all.
Yeah, I feel like all our higher belts really respect Nikki's game because they really understand how good she is and how much we need to work and be smart when we're grappling with her. And, I can just crush her and hold her down if I want. But, I don't do that because she gets really pissed at me when I do that. So, now I just I roll more a technical battle with her, and I need to be really on my game or she's going to get me.
Oh yeah. Whenever I roll Nikki, she has an answer for everything I have. And then she comes at me full force. I'm usually on the back foot the whole time. Yeah,
exactly.
Amazing. It's amazing grappler.
And how can she be so good? It's because, she is a legit brown belt, and she still has that, again, that mentality of the brown belts and black belts being the upper echelon, which she hasn't reached yet. But it's no, Nikki, you have, that's where you're at. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully she changes her mentality. I always try to, I wish I could give her my confidence because, I'm just I have a lot of confidence in everything I do. I wish, I could give it to her and other people because, yeah, it's just unfortunate that she can't believe in herself as much as we believe in her, for sure. So we'll take this one from Derek.
Hey, Jordan, love the podcast, love the channel. You mentioned on one of your posts that you started your gym after 3.5 years. Can you talk about how you felt the timing was right to start your own gym and what the process was like? Thanks.
Yeah, so first off, I started my gym as a blue belt after only training 3.5 years, which I don't recommend for most people. But, I was a technical and competitive blue belt, and, I was good. I could beat black belts. It's just the truth. I would go other gyms. I have no problem against black belts. So I knew I had the ability. I was very technical. And basically a CrossFit gym, they asked me if I want to start a grappling program. So I'm like, well, I'm only blue belt and people might get pissed, but I really want to start my goal is to start a gym. So, why not start now? And so that's what I did. And then we quickly outgrew the CrossFit gym, and then, became like a real legitimate gym. So, I'm really glad I did that, because now I'm a black belt, and, I had the gym 7 years. I got all these people to grapple with, as opposed to what if I started the gym just now, I would have like way less people. There'd be all lower belts to grapple with. So, it worked out so good. And I'm so glad that everything turned out the way it did. Like, I have a great life, and I set up a great life. I set up a great life for myself. And, people talk shit like hardcore when I did that, because they're like, oh, blue belt can't open a gym. But even though, a lot of those people, they opened up gyms when they were blue belts, but only like, years before that, because, in Canada, Jiu-Jitsu is a little newer than some countries, and like a lot of people here open up their gyms as blue belts, but like years before I did, and they had the audacity to talk shit about me. So it's kind of funny to so I opened up a gym as a blue belt in the same town where I got my blue belt from a black belt. So there was 2 gyms, one by a black belt, one by a blue belt, but we still killed it. We still crushed it, and it didn't matter. That was a lower belt. Things went great.
Well, I think ultimately, like, if you open a gym as a blue belt, if it's good, it'll work. You'll have members, you'll get people, the training will get better, and eventually, however you progress through your belts, you'll do it. But like, you can open a gym as a black belt, and if it's not a good gym, it won't work. Like, the belt really doesn't signify whether or not the gym will work. It's the person. Like, you had the right attitude for it from the beginning.
Exactly. Like, always making people feel included, having great atmosphere, just a great time training. And I quickly got my purple, because I knew I was going to get my purple belt pretty soon too. So I was like, well, it's only like 5 months until grading. I'm probably gonna get my purple belt. So it's not that long. I'm gonna be a blue belt for. And when you're a purple belt, people can talk less shit, even though some people still did. But it's like, it worked out great. So we'll take a question from Cameron.
Hey guys, my name's Cameron. I'm a blue belt from Australia. Absolutely love the videos and the podcast. My question is, do you find yourself rolling to your partner's ability, or do you find yourself rolling to your own ability and trying to better your game? Thank you so much. Keep it up.
Yeah, thanks, Cameron. And I'll let you guys go first. What you guys think?
Mine depends on the day. Like, when I'm doing an easy day or a light day, I'll just kind of try and match my partner. So if I'm rolling with a blue belt, I'll try and kind of match their skill to almost give them a better training environment, because like, I'm not going hard. I'm not really trying to like push myself too much. I'm more just trying to like go through the motions of the technique and like work on stuff maybe I'm not good at. So I will try and match. But on the days when I'm training hard, like a day when I'm trying to get myself ready for a competition or really improve, I'll kind of go my own level and see if they can bring their game up to match that.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Mike?
When I roll somebody who's smaller or a lower belt, I go to their level and their weight, sort of. I kind of make myself feel lighter, and I don't go as hard. And when I'm rolling people my belt and above, I try to go as much as I can my game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overall, probably what I do is like sometimes I have like roles where I just let people kind of beat me up and kind of, and try to escape and stuff like that. But the majority of what I do is just trying to beat people up as much as I can, and like, but with minimal amount of strength and effort. So that's always the goal for anyone. But, especially a black belt, that should be like, you should roll with a white belt or blue belt and just like not even break a sweat and like still crush them, but like not crush them, like, hurting them. But I mean, like, crush them in the sense that like you still submit them multiple times and you just like out technique them, because I think that's a really fun thing to do, to have a technical battle that way. And a great example, I think we talked about it before, but like Tanya at the gym, she's like 110 pounds, but I still have a very technical roll with her, like super technical, and I'm not like crushing her at all in that sense. But I'm still trying to get her. I'm still working really hard, and it's almost like a harder roll than someone my own size sometimes, because I had to be so careful and so technical and not rely on any strength or size that way. So yeah, I think it depends, what belt level you are and everything too. Well, you're a blue belt, but when I was like a white belt and blue belt, my mentality was just like kill, just get everyone. And it wasn't the right mentality. I just love winning too much. Yeah, I still do. So this one's from Raphael.
Hey guys, Raphael again. what's the top 3 countries in the world for jiu-jitsu?
So definitely Brazil and the US. I would say US is number 1, and that might piss off some Brazilians, but I think that's just the reality of the situation now. And I mean, it depends how you define it. Like I would say most champions in the IBJJF are, like for gi, are Brazilians, but then, you know, most of the top competitors nowadays in no-gi are Americans. So, you know, it just, and I think that the US will overtake Brazil really. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think Brazil's still number 1. Definitely in gi. I think in gi, they're number 1 by a pretty big margin. No-gi, I think it's pretty close. I think I'd still favor them. I mean, if you look at the last few world championships in ADCC, I think it's still over 75% Brazilian champs, but I think that gap is closing pretty quickly. I think after 1 and 2, there's actually like a really big drop off though. Like in terms of like top countries, it's clearly Brazil and the States. And then
who is number 3?
It would be hard. I mean, you want to say maybe, I'd want to say maybe something in Europe, but it's hard to pick one country in Europe that's done it. I'm a little biased. I think Canada has some really amazing grapplers, but we don't really have the like acclaim or titles that a lot of these other countries have. Australia might be a contender. They've been doing pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean Craig. Yeah, they have Craig, but besides that, they don't really have many people.
Yeah, it's definitely like if Brazil and the US are a 10 out of 10, the next closest is like a 6 or something. Like it's a pretty big drop off.
Yeah, I would say a lot of countries are tied, like Canada, Australia, UK, are pretty tied. And I would say, I don't know if there's a lot of other countries that would kind of rival those 3.
I'm trying to think. Maybe like some of the Eastern European countries are on the rise, but yeah, I think there's not much that comes super close right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you say grappling or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah, because that's a big difference too.
Dagestan has a lot of grappling, right? Like they have masters of sport in Russia, all over the place.
Sambo and everything.
Sambo, yeah.
True. And I guess if you're including other arts like wrestling and judo too, there are some countries that are powerhouses in those sports.
Russia, yeah.
Yeah, but I think if those guys went to a pure Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, they wouldn't do amazing. They would do okay, but they wouldn't get first place.
No.
Yeah, when I think grappling, I think like almost ADCC, because like you can be a wrestler there. It's fine. You can do judo, you can do jiu-jitsu. I don't think the rule set is super biased towards one of the arts. So I think it's still probably Brazil and the States and then a big drop off.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time.